Hi, Diana. I'm going to invite you as a collaborator right now. Awesome. Welcome. We have Nekia here. Perfect. Just got to get British and we'll be good.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Jay.
Welcome. Okay, I see British. Oh, wonderful. Okay, we have everyone. This is perfect. Awesome. Awesome. I'm trying to just like wave to folks, but this should be good. Here we go. Everyone's just settling in. Perfect. So awesome. So I can go ahead and maybe get us started for today. Folks typically come in and out, but I'm super excited. This is our first IG Live of the season, so it's really fun. Yeah, let's go. I think I shared with you all, and I don't know if any folks that joined today attended some of our previous ones, but we started this IG Live series last year with some of our 2024 fellows around this season. It's really aimed at trying to just amplify the work that the fellows are doing. Really is just like so inspiring, and just to be in space to receive some of the wisdom that you all have. Being on the front lines of this work. And I'm just so excited to be here today with British and Nekia, and um, I'll let them share a little bit more about themselves momentarily, but I just want to give a flow for today. We have some questions that we received ahead of time for British and Nekia, but we also invite folks that are here to ask their questions in our Q&A, and so we'll have some time towards the end of our 30-minute block to answer some of those. But we just really appreciate you all being here and tuning in. And I don't think I've introduced myself, but my name is Jay. I have the privilege of supporting the Community Food Systems Fellowship and being in space with such amazing, inspirational folks like British and Nekia. And so, yeah, I think I'll take a break from chatting and just give space for British and Nekia to introduce themselves. Share a little bit more about the work that they're doing and the organizations that they're representing here today. So I'll pass it to y'all.
I can start. Hey, everybody. My name is British Griffis. I am coming to you all from the south side of Chicago. I work with Chicago Food Policy Action Council doing supply chain development work, making sure that our BIPOC farmers, food producers, food business owners throughout the city and out the Illinois region have access to procurement opportunities, and particularly institutional procurement opportunities, and making sure that they are aware of those and have equitable access into entering that supply chain. And I will pass it to Nekia. And then I do my own urban agriculture venture on the side. So
Cool. Greetings, everyone. My name is Nekia McDonald. I am the Director of Community Access here at the Lighthouse Black Girl Project. Our home base is in Jackson, Mississippi, also known as the sovereign state of Jafrica, we affectionately call it here. My role here at Lighthouse is similar to British's role, and we work with farmers that are producers here in the state of Mississippi, kind of regional, and offer opportunities to increase market opportunities for them here in the state, or through not necessarily institutional procurement opportunities, but in more of a direct-to-consumer access opportunities through our community CSA program. We're working on doing some mobile markets, pop-up markets, things like that. So, yes.
Awesome, awesome. And don't be fooled, folks that are here in the chat. This is just a little bit of what they do. I've shared space with both of them, and this is just like one of some of the multifaceted community work that they're doing. And so, yeah, just so grateful to be in space with you all. And one of the first questions we actually received, now that you all are sharing a little bit more about your background, both in kind of procurement, access work in different ways. Folks were interested in hearing a little bit more about what initially just grew your desire and kind of sparked that fire for wanting to work in food systems, food justice space. So yeah, we'd love to hear a little bit more.
I can jump in. So growing up on the south side of Chicago, I vividly remember going to the corner store in the morning before going to school, getting super donuts, honey buns. $1 used to go a long way back in the day. And that was not the best thing for me to be having in the morning, but I happily consumed all those things. And then fast forward, going to college, I thought I was going to become a pharmacist and heal people via medicine. And then did more digging into big pharma. I didn't really agree with some of the practices. It's not really preventative from my perspective. And I was like, well, food is the most intimate, integral part of our existence. So like, let's start there. Um, and then growing up, I grew up with Caribbean American grandparents who I just thought were like weird old people. They always had like a kitchen garden, so to speak, and would be like eating cloves of garlic and all this stuff. And I'm just like, y'all are weird. But full circle moment, I had the opportunity to go back to their respective countries, Jamaica and Trinidad, and got to see how they grew up and interacted directly with the environment around them. And then that kind of prompted me to go into food justice and food security work. And then I also did some Peace Corps food security specialist work in Nepal. So I spent 2.5 years in Asia supporting smallholder women farmers with various agricultural projects, and developed a science lab for kids over there as they were just recovering from the earthquake prior to my arrival. So that was my journey and path into it, and I'll hand it over to Nekia.
Thank you. Wow, where do I start? So I'll start with the small, very, very, very small community in Lincoln County, Arkansas, which I grew up. We affectionately call it the Bottoms. It's also known as Rochellaville. And the reason why they call it Rochellaville in some places, that's not the official name, but that's what some people call it, is because of my family. On my mother's side, my mother's family is so big that, people are just like, oh, all the Rochelles live in this one place. And that's what they started calling it. They would either call it, the Bottoms, or down there where the Rochelles stay, or something like that. But my great grandfather, D.W. Rochelle, acquired a large sum of land, back in the early 1900s. And he and my grandfather, primarily, and the rest of my grandfather's brothers, they worked that land, they stewarded that land, and there was other families in that community. But what I do remember growing up there is that I never saw anyone go hungry. I never saw like a scarcity of food in a sense, because there was always like gardens and people growing stuff, and uh, people hunting and fishing and foraging for food items. And on top of that, my grandfather himself, the late great Reverend Willie Rochelle, he owned a store. So he had a store down there with a gas pump and all that. And he would he would he probably had more people who he gave food to than he actually sold food to, right? And so he also, what he would do, he worked out this deal with the grocery stores that were local, where he would go, he would have, he would take the community of kids. This was my first job. And we would go and help clean. Now, my grandfather was not doing any, he was not breaking any child labor laws, right? So I want to say that. But he would actually have us help him clean the equipment, like the meat department, and like take away the boxes and all that stuff. And and what the grocery store would say, okay, since you're doing that, my grandfather said, well, I'll do that for you, and you give me the food that's about to go bad, like that's coming off the shelf, right? Not necessarily going bad, but coming off the shelf. And so what he would do with that food is he would take it out in the community and give it to the families that couldn't necessarily afford groceries, right? But he was like, instead of you throwing it away or whatever, if the expiration date is within the week or so, just give it to me and then I'll take it and do whatever with it. And so he did that all the time. And so that was like, one of the things that inspired me growing up, because I was like, I never saw anybody like without, because he was one of the ones that made sure that everybody was fed. And so growing up in that environment, I kind of went away from it in a sense when I went off to college. I did some, I was in the classroom, I was doing some teaching, and I was trying to figure out how to connect what we were learning in the classroom to like things that students could connect to as far as what was going on in their real world. And so there was a group of people in the community that started doing some urban ag stuff, and I joined that group, and we started a a sort of like an incubator farm where you went and you learned how to grow food, and then from that if you wanted to farm, you could farm. And so that was in Keysville, Georgia, and that was under Mr. Sam Addison and Miss Loretta Addison, and they were huge in my journey as far as this my work in the food system. And so went from there, went back to school, went and got my master's in sustainable food systems. And right around that time, COVID hit. Went to Texas, did some work on the supply chain side with the farmhouse delivery. Came here to Mississippi, helped start a training program or a community garden or community farm training program in Utica, Mississippi, and then from there joined the Lighthouse, and that's where I'm at currently doing the work I'm doing. So that's my full circle. And the other thing in that is that I did have a chance to go to Africa because I knew that there was a connection between the work that we were doing here, or the science and technology around how we farm in a sustainable way, and what was traditionally done there. And so I had a chance to go to Ghana, to the coast of Ghana, to the Volta region, and see like the form of farming that they were doing there was very much similar to the market garden, biointensive style of farming that we do here. And so that was beautiful. And if you ever go there, you'll see that they're growing tons of food basically in sand. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing to see. Yeah. And I'll stop there.
Yeah, no, thank y'all so much for sharing. Y'all just had such rich and expansive experiences, and I just really appreciate also the naming of. I was thinking of the full circle, like naming ancestors and like a need to return on both of your sides. I also come from on both sides of my family, folks that did a lot of land stewardship work and deeply connected to land, and so I think so much of this. Especially for people that come from lineages of deep connection with land, but also I've experienced a lot of harm within with land, whether or not it's because of like colonization, racism, slavery. I think it's just so powerful to also think of this work as like a reclamation for BIPOC people,
Mm-hmm.
and as a continuation of like the legacies of some of the lineages that we're carrying from our own ancestors. You were naming Nekia, and so it makes me think about something so powerful about the fellowship space, that is this kind of this center of gravity around hope, and how a lot of, actually went to see the encampment last night, actually the new documentary on some of the student encampments for Palestine, and one of the organizers in it named how like hope is like a practice, and I really think about that in the fellowship space. How like we're kind of, you all are just like working, and we talk about how like burnout can be so pervasive, and so coming together and just like being in space with each other is so has really, I think, nourished us in this work. And so I'm really curious about this idea of like hope being this practice, about what gives you all hope in our current food system.
Mm.
You want to go first, British?
Yeah, I think for me, um, being a person of color, we've always had to do more with less, in a sense. Um,
Mm.
so we are always ahead of the game and innovative and creative in the ways that we work together to be self-reliant and self-independent, and focusing on the local community assets that we do have, and collectively leveraging that gives me hope. And like just knowing that there's so many of us who are actively doing this work, making sure that folks have access to food and are well taken care of, and have been doing this work for years. And it might seem like we're doing it in silos, but when we poke our heads up, we can see how much we've done over the years, and be more collaborative and creative in the ways that we expand what we're doing at the hyper local level.
Mm. Mm.
Uh, for me, I guess, uh, one, okay, I'm a name. I've named two people already, Mr. Sam and Mrs. Loretta Adderson in Augusta, Georgia, or in Keysville, Georgia. And what gives me hope is, if you ever talk to Miss Mama Loretta, she is like the biggest cheerleader for anybody that is wanting to do anything with food justice, food sovereignty, any of that. And when you see them, it's only them two, and they have, I think, a 50-acre farm, organic farm, and they're doing all the work themselves. They may have some people come in and out and help a little bit, but they're doing the work themselves, and they are, I think, in their 80s now, and they're, you know, and so it's like that that gives that gives me hope, because, or that pushes everything forward, because it's like, if they can do it, if they can still be every day involved in it, why can't I?
Mm.
And then the other thing I think about is the younger people that I see, that I've seen grow in this work, right? Like, I've seen, like, um, 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 Tiana Neal, who started off with us in Georgia, and she was breaking tools when we first started. Like, she didn't know how to use the actual tools, and now she's running her own farm. I mean, it's like you see her, being very much a food systems leader in Georgia. She is amazing. You have uh, um, two young brothers here that started off, and I'm I'll I'm sorry because I can't remember their last names right now because it's just escaping me. But Eugene and Jonathan down in Utica, Mississippi, and they started off having no clue about the food system. Um, they were very much like, I just need a job. Um, they weren't even eating like, a lot of the vegetables and stuff that were grown initially when we started the community farm down in this Utica. And now they're actually running the farm. They're, doing the work. They're, making decisions about, the day-to-day stuff down there. And so just seeing those two dynamics, like those two, um, uh, those, that older group that is still involved in it, the elders that are still involved in it, and then the younger ones that are up and coming, that gives me all the hope, to keep going. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Wow, my heart is so full. I'm really appreciating these notes about like intergenerational spaces and just continuing this lineage that we've carried. And so, yeah, before we get in Q&A, because I know we only have a couple more minutes, I do want to continue on this path and orientation of just hope and have one final question. And it is, what does a liberated food system look like to you all?
Mm-hmm. You want to go ahead, Nekia?
Yeah, I'll probably start and I'll probably stop and let you start and then I'll, add in. But I always say, and I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but the most revolutionary thing a person can do is plant a seed, right? Because that is the most loving act that you can do, knowing that you're planting it to feed people, right? And sometimes you may not even see um, it, the seed fruit, right? You may not see the full process, but you know that this is a loving thing that I'm about to do, put this seed in the ground because I know this is going to lead to people sustaining themselves. And so that is the most important thing. And that is what a liberated food system looks like, is because um, no amount of money or social cachet should allow a person to get more food than the next person, right? Food shouldn't be a value-based thing, but or based on how much capital you hold. It should be a thing that's just a human right and an inalienable right to everyone, regardless of whatever, right? And I think that so much value has been placed on monetizing not only just food, but the land that is used to grow food, that that's shifted it so much to the point where anything going in the other direction looks like liberation, but total liberation would be centering, food and land based on um, the need of the people versus how much you can get from the people, if I'm making sense.
That makes
Right.
sense. I think for me, I definitely resonate with the point about like nurturing nature, and then in return, nature will nurture you.
Correct.
So like the reciprocity in that exchange between us as humans and our relationship with this earth. And then I I think for me, it will also include shift in the status quo and the dynamic of this top down
Correct.
approach that we have,
Correct.
or we with food and food systems, that governments and agencies are policing things and you only have a set amount of options and choices. My theory is that we should be radical, and if we are going to make the claim that we are inclusive others of all backgrounds and what have you. People should be able to grow what they want to grow where they want to grow it.
Right.
Um,
Correct.
because they know what is relevant to them in their culture and their history, and they should have access to that how they see fit. So that speaks to me, and maybe it resonates with some of you all here.
Yes.
Wow, what power to end on. Okay, I'm really appreciating the center of like this idea of nature and nurture and that reciprocity for right relationship there. Um, yeah, I think it's something we talk a lot about in the fellowship
Yeah.
space. And I know I'm gonna check if we have any questions because I know we're probably ending in a bit, but Nikki, I wanted to make sure if you had space to add on too, because you said you might have some additional thoughts
No.
there, but
No. 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 I think British. Basically, what British said. So yes, that's great.
And stop being so extractive. I think that's another thing. The way that we just extract,
Right.
as if things are infinite, and resources, are
That's
limited in some areas, and we
that's
can't
a
be so exploitive, and then try to capitalize on the things that we're exploiting in the vein of,
that's a
yeah.
good point, British. That's a very good point. That's a very good point because I think even in when and I hate using the word alternative food system, but when people are thinking through the quote unquote alternative, I'm using that just to, you know, but even when they're thinking about that, they're not thinking about ways in which, like to close the loop, right? So some people will just say farm to table, but then they won't think about, okay, what do we do on the back end so that we can do it again? And so I just had like part of the conversation I had this weekend was about, closing the loop or not being so extractive where you're growing the food, but then you're not thinking about how do you replenish the earth, how do you let the land rest, what is the spirit involved with the land, like you're not, and there's very few people in tune with the land in that way, right? And I think that's what leads to that extractive relationship with the land, right? That's just my opinion. Yeah.
no, absolutely. Again, this I think brings me back to our first point we were talking about, like lineages of ancestral lineages for stewardship for a lot of BIPOC communities. Like you talked about your experience, Nekia, going back to Africa, and um, I think about in a lot of work that I do, also with like indigenous communities, talking about this idea, like how all like these ideas of like extraction, of like ownership, of right to, hierarchy within like human. All of these are just like
Right.
colonial constructs and such an important piece of what we're doing within like food justice, food sovereignty movement, and aren't necessarily. I think like languages and values
Right.
inherent to our own like lineages and ancestry, but obviously like modeled within this container that we are in.
Right.
And so, yeah, I know that I shared in the chat, we have time for maybe like 1 to 2 Q&A. So please feel free, folks, to ask your questions. I'm going to see if I can. That's okay. And while I'm doing that, feel free, Nakia and British, if there's any like other final thoughts that you want to share. But I don't see any questions just yet.
Bridget, any final thoughts?
Plant something. That's the final
Right.
thought.
Support
Like
the work.
interact
Yes.
with the
That's
world.
yes. Yeah.
Sustain yourself. Try it. It's all experimental. There's no right or wrong way to do it. As long as you are attempting to um, provide for yourself and your community.
Right. Come
Mm-hmm.
up with creative ways in which, the community in which you live is fed, right? So there's plenty of models out there that you can go by as far as historical examples, but there's no such thing as bad ideas when you're trying to do the right thing for the people. So Yeah.
And it looks like we did get a question in the chat from the Infinity Lord. Someone says, "Where are you looking for information? Who keeps you inspired?"
You want to
Where do I look for information? A plethora of places.
go? Yeah, me too. Mm-hmm.
Social media, podcasts, newsletters, listservs, LinkedIn, like professional outlets, um, showing up at conferences. And I feel like that's another critical way to engage, because you are able to, I feel like those in-person convenings, you are able to really see the collective energy and spirit
Right.
that folks have, and are able to identify folks who may be within your region that you just weren't aware of for whatever reason, who have been doing this work for years, and you can collaborate or volunteer or partner with them, and explore your curiosities as it relates to being a food systems enthusiast, a grower enthusiast, or what have you.
Yeah. I'll take the
I feel
second
like it was a
question.
two-part question, right? Did I answer both parts of that question?
It's another question that popped up that says, any book recommendations or resources for people that are very much beginners in planting and gardening?
I'll let you answer the
Farming
first one.
Well, Farming Well Black is a good one. Some very old but still hit hard books are uh, um, the Movable School Goes to the Negro Farmer. That's a good one. Another one is you can go online and you can look at any of the uh, George Washington Carver bulletins that he wrote, that he and the students at Tuskegee wrote. Those are accessible online. There is the book by Professor Booker T. Watley out of Tuskegee, How to Make $20,000 on 20 acres of land or something like that. I might be saying it wrong, but it's a hard to find book, but it's a great book because that's the book that opened up diversifying your farm. He comes up with an actual plan in that book, how to diversify, how to be a small scale farmer, but actually make a living at it, basically. What am I missing? There's so many. There's one that just came. There's one that just came out. Rooted. Excuse me. And I can't remember the author of that one. There's Freedom Farmers by Monica White that more talks about the co-op part of farming. There's
If you want to get into your herbalism bag, Working the Roots is a good one.
Working
I
the
love
Root,
that book.
yes. One Straw Revolution, that's another one. There's so many books that you can.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to come up with
A book
a must read
list.
list. Yeah, book
Yes.
list, and we can share that.
Yeah.
I like this. Yes, please, book list, resource list. I think that would be so beautiful. And maybe I'll offer my final 2 cents because as you were speaking, Nikki, I was also thinking about what you all named earlier. I think you also said you mainly centered British around the idea of within, like, not just like learning the planting the seeds and like the logistics of like farming, but also the relationship piece of that, and
Mm-hmm.
how within that relationship and how we're um, partnering with the land, we are practicing our liberation values for what we're trying to like build out beyond ourselves. And so I also think like any resources that are naming about like how to be in relationship with land in better ways, whether it's not things talking about consent or talking about the history of the land that you are as it relates to indigenous community and Black community. And yeah, just really challenging this idea of ownership and really centering what you named British about reciprocity there and how we can practice that within our planting and gardening work. But yeah, I think that's kind of all of our questions that we received. We're pretty good with time, so I love this for us. Just so grateful to have been in space with you all and just have listened. My heart really feels so just like full and inspired to return back to the day. And thank you everyone for also attending. I'd love to just have a final moment for final words from British and Nekia, and maybe to share out your like work that you want to amplify or any support requests that you have, as well as just like any social media handles that you want to shout out for folks to follow. So yeah, I'll pass it to y'all for final notes.
Take it away, Nekia.
Oh yes, you can follow us at Love Black Girls. That's LUVBLKGIRLS on I think all the social media platforms. The Lighthouse Black Girl Project. We are in our second season of our community CSA program. You can donate and help. You know, in a way, help feed the people here in the Greater Jackson area. You know, whatever you feel like, we'll use that to get food to the people that, you know, maybe not can afford it, because we do it on a sliding scale. So, yeah. And, you know, I appreciate this time and this opportunity to talk food, which I nerd out on sometimes. And people like, be quiet, Nekia, because we don't want to hear about, you know, all your nerdy stuff. So yeah.
Shout out to Vital Village for having us
Yes.
today. You all can follow me at Harvest OG. That is my page for my urban agriculture venture. If you want to learn more about what I'm doing professionally, that handle is at Shy Food Policy. Yes, the call to action for me would be to just follow us. This is my first time going live, and I think that this
Mine
is
too.
a nice space. So maybe um, I can facilitate like how to start a plant on or seedlings and things like that on live. So if that's something y'all are interested in, stay tuned for that. Y'all can be my accountability partners in that, and we can go live together and start cultivating some seeds.
Yeah.
Yes,
Seeds
I
on.
love that. I'll be there. Say less, British.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, and thank you all so much. Thank you all for everyone that attended and for all the hearts and loves and questions. And yeah, we'll see you at our next Instagram Live. And please follow Nekia and British. And yeah, we'll see you all soon. Take care, everyone.
See y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.